Welcome into 360 Sports here on a Monday. We're talking some NFL football recap in Week 11, going into Week 12. I'm your host, Jake Gould, joined as well by Brandon Kern, Ethan Brisner, and Cameron Coulter. Guys, how are we doing? We're already 11 weeks through the NFL season. We're 2 weeks away from Turkey Day. This is crazy. How you feeling?
Feeling good about the season. Ready to rock and roll for the rest of it.
Going a little too fast, but we're going to have some great games down the stretch.
Yeah, great games. I've enjoyed it so far.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. We got a lot to get into today's episode. Obviously, of course, probably the biggest news we can get into is 72 Dolphins can finally celebrate, pop those champagne bottles. There will not be an undefeated team through the rest of the NFL season. The Kansas City Chiefs finally lost to the Buffalo Bills 30-21 yesterday. Buffalo is now sitting at 9-2. They are in real contention for the number one seed in the AFC. And this is crazy. I mean, it opens up so many avenues for so many other teams. But what do you guys think? Is Buffalo the number one team in the conference now? And I mean, what does this do for Josh Allen's MVP campaign? What do you guys think? Brandon, I'll kick it to you first.
I don't think there is a best team in the AFC. I mean, I think we could all agree that the Chiefs were probably the best team in the AFC going into yesterday, losing to Buffalo, who has lost to Baltimore earlier in the season. And Baltimore's had some slip-ups. There's no clear favorite right now. I think this game did put Josh Allen as the MVP favorite. He now has a storyline taking down the undefeated team. Doesn't mean I think he's better than Lamar Jackson. I think he has a better story, and if it were to end today, he would probably be the MVP.
Go ahead, take it away, Ethan.
I mean, I agree with everything you said. The only thing, how many times have the Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season? And how many times have they lost to them in the playoffs?
Every time.
I think this time is a different stigma to it. And the
They
MVP,
always say that.
it's a regular season award. It's a regular season award.
It is. I mean, okay, MVP is a regular season award. I do agree. I don't think that there's a top team in the AFC. All like the 5 teams up there are they can all contend. I think each one has like a huge issue wrong with them that could put them down, but they can all fight over it. I mean, Bills look the best right now. They looked the best yesterday. I mean, I don't know.
I would have to agree with you. I don't think there is a best team in the AFC. I mean, you have the Steelers, you have the Ravens, you have the Bills, you have the Chiefs, you have teams like Chargers, Broncos, Bengals. I mean, the AFC is all over the place right now. Is Josh Allen the MVP favorite? Yes, definitely. But the Bills do this at the same time. They always look good in the regular season, and they can't beat Mahomes. Mahomes is Jordan and LeBron combined in the playoffs. No one can beat him. And until someone beats him, I have to go with Chiefs as much as it pains me.
No matter how much the Chiefs suck in the regular season, like last year, we saw Mahomes had the same type of decline,
Exactly.
and then playoffs come. Oh, look, he won another Super
Travis
Bowl.
Kelce looked like amazing, and
Yeah,
it's nothing new. That's how the Chiefs run. Just
Yeah.
get him in the playoffs, that's it. The game's over.
I mean, hey, the record, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are 4-4 against each other lifetime, but Patrick Mahomes does own 3-0 in a minute against the playoffs. So again, like you guys said, remains to be seen, but that's a huge win for the Bills. But let's keep it moving. Another top-tier AFC showdown. It seemed like a little bit of a rivalry weekend mini in the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers took on the Baltimore Ravens. AFC North matchup. AFC North matchups always give us a great showdown. Pittsburgh barely escaped, winning 18-16 over the Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers now moved to 8-2, taking control of the AFC North. And Lamar Jackson's all-time record against the Steelers now falls to 2-5. What do you guys think of this? The Steelers in control. Baltimore still has a chance. What are you guys thinking?
Oh, I watched the entire game yesterday. As you can probably tell. Whenever Lamar goes into Pittsburgh, he reminds me of the smart kid in high school who could not take tests for his life. He was great at the group assignments. He was great at the homework. But you put a test in front of him, he clams up, he gets nervous, he forgets what he knows. The Ravens ran the ball 19 times yesterday. They're a running team. They're not going to beat these good teams that happen against Kansas City. Well-coached teams are going to stop them if they throw the ball 50 times a game. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely. The Steelers just know how to shut down Lamar Jackson. I mean, you said it. They have a great record against them. Steelers, though, they need to really figure out what they're doing offensively. We thought they had that spark with Russell Wilson, but he can't score in the red zone. Like, I don't know.
They're winning games, though.
They're winning games, but again, like
that's my one problem with them.
At this point, should we not say that Chris Boswell is like the MVP at this point? Like, put him in the.
He's having a phenomenal season.
Yeah.
He's having a very.
That's my only thing that concerns me about the Steelers. They can get down the red zone, but they cannot score. Russell Wilson, third and goal, rolls out, gets out of the pressure. I don't know how. Throws a lollipop to God knows where and gets picked. Like, what are you doing? Just run or throw the ball out of bounds. I don't know if he was trying to throw the ball out of bounds, but that's a possession you need to score. And teams like the Chiefs and Bills, they're going to score touchdowns. You got to score touchdowns. You cannot be kicking field goals every time. I mean, congrats, you're winning. But again, I want to see them in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see. Maybe we'll get a third matchup between the three of them going into the playoffs. We'll see how it goes. But let's move it right along. Obviously we're into probably the disappointing part of the season, where obviously we know who a lot of the good teams are, but of course, if you're a fan of a very poor and awful coach team, there's probably no chance you're getting there. You're ready to start booking Cancun trips to go on vacation. So we're going to go around. Everyone's going to give us a team that you think is completely done. There's no shot for them in the playoffs, and maybe some top NFL draft prospects they could look to help build their team for the future and give them some optimism for next season. So we're starting off with you, Brandon.
Should be a fun one.
All right. My team already on the screen. It is the New York Giants. They already pretty much announced that they are tanking today, as they announced Tommy DeVito is a starter over Daniel Jones. Despite this, I still think the Giants are in the best position out of all of the bad teams. They've got an above-average defense. They have a star receiver that they just drafted. They just need to fill the hole at quarterback, and that's why I think if they have a top 3 pick, they're likely to go Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. They need an athlete at the position. They need someone who can create. We saw what the Broncos and the Commanders did, drafting Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, and we see where they are now. The Giants in the last year have made some pretty bad offseason decisions. I think that one pick, that's all they need to do, one pick. They don't have to make any other moves. I think the Giants are a wild card team next year with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. We saw what happened with the Broncos and the Commanders. Not really many other substantial changes. I'm rocking with the Giants as a 6 or 7 seed if they draft Shedeur. That's probably my hottest take.
That's
probably my hottest take going into next
season.
season.
That's hot.
It is a hot take, but I love what I'm seeing out of Shedeur. Daniel Jones, what has he done? He hasn't done anything. He was drafted as kind of an athlete, more of a pocket passer. If they can get a guy that can create, especially with Neighbors going into his second year, I think it's a great combination, especially with a good defense.
You think Deion comes too?
No, better not.
Nope.
I think it's a great point you make, though, because the Giants. It seems like after they moved on from Eli Manning, they were kind of hoping they could get similar comparison to that with Daniel Jones, but with a little bit more mobility. Obviously, that's not at all what's going to happen because Daniel Jones did not win the Giants 2 Super Bowls. So it makes a lot of sense. The Giants definitely need some quarterback help.
Yes,
Shedeur Sanders seems like the guy. It could definitely be a great pick for them.
Especially since the 2 teams that are, I'd say, worse than them right now, which are Jacksonville and New England, they aren't going to be looking for a quarterback. They already are locked in on Trevor Lawrence because they paid him. Drake May because they just drafted him. They'll probably go 2 other positions, maybe a Travis Hunter, maybe an offensive lineman that high. Who knows? Maybe a defensive player. I think the best quarterback, I think they'll get the pick at the best quarterback, and that's Shedeur Sanders.
Be interesting to see. All right, Cameron, what do you got for us?
I'm going to stay in the division here. We're going to Dallas. We're going to Dallas. Flash it up. Jalen Milroe. Listen, I've talked about this guy on multiple shows before. Dallas needs an athlete, the same as what he said with the Giants. Dallas just needs a reset. You paid CD, you have good guys like Ferguson, and you need a running back. Gentry's not going to fix the problem there. Running back's not going to fix the problem. I think you fire McCarthy, you bring in someone, you get Milroe. Milroe has elite talent at the arm and the passing skills. He can run the ball. He's like Lamar. He's untapped. Dallas is sitting around that 9-10 spot. I think Milroe's right there, or maybe they trade back again, maybe like Lamar, get him like 32nd. Listen, this kid's an athlete, and this kid can win games in Dallas, I think.
Does that fix all their problems? What do you do with Dak?
Listen, if you're top 10 in the NFL draft, you ain't fixing all your problems with one pick. Maybe like how we did this year, but Cowboys have to bring in a lot of acquisitions. I think they need a running back, but a lot of people have Gentry going there, but Gentry's not going to solve the problem.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Jerry Jones especially, he loves sexy picks, and that might be the sexiest pick of the entire draft.
And shock people.
And despite the fact that they did just pay Dak Prescott a lot of money, it's not the end of the world. You can always get rid of quarterbacks. I mean, we saw
what Kirk and Penix are doing.
Right, and we saw with, obviously, back in the day with the Eagles, they got rid of Carson Wentz and his big contract. We saw most recently with Russell Wilson getting traded from the Denver Broncos, and now he's on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers are paying him about $1 million, and most of his money being paid by Denver, and it's working out in the end. So despite being locked into Dak Prescott potentially, it's not the worst idea in the world, and they could absolutely make it work.
I think it works.
That some random team without a quarterback would love to have Dak Prescott, even though I think he sucks.
He'll be a Saint.
Some random,
they can get a little bit out of him.
Saints, Raiders, I don't know.
Honestly, like any one of those teams, they would love to have Dak, even though he sucks.
Obviously, I'm not a fan of Dak, but he has proven that he is a good starting quarterback, and there would be plenty of teams signing up to absolutely have Dak Prescott as their quarterback until they potentially see if he's their guy like Geno Smith or they find their new franchise QB.
I think Dallas just needs a reset, and that's basically it.
Yeah,
we'll see what you can do.
It's a good way to start.
All right, Ethan, what do you got for us?
Before he goes, Connor commented that the Denver Broncos should be ready to tank. What do you guys think about that?
I know exactly who that is. Connor, I love you, but you're a Steelers fan. We're coming for you.
They have a winning record, don't they?
That feels a little hard. They're in the playoff
I don't
race
think they
right
should
now.
tank now, but I mean,
he's just messing with me. I know.
As of right now, they are the 7th seed in the play.
Listen,
in the
they're
AFC.
going to sit right there. I'm telling you.
Anyway, my pick might be a little bit biased. I'm picking my favorite NFL team and my favorite college team. Panthers should go for
Abdul Carter from Penn State. Now, a lot of people are talking about, the quarterback drama at the beginning of the year. I don't think that they should leave with Bryce Young. I mean, obviously he played a good last 2 games. Even if he sucks for the rest of the season, Panthers can't play with new quarterbacks. They've tried so many times to develop these young guys, and it just has not worked. If they have to go with somebody like Andy Dalton, go with them. Focus on the defense. The defense is the issue on the Panthers right now. 31 points per game allowed. That is the worst in the league. With Andy Dalton, all of those games that Andy Dalton played, besides like the Raiders, those were almost offensive shootouts where the defense just could not get a stop. If they go out and get a guy like Abdul Carter, they do not have that edge rusher this year. In the previous years, they've had Hassan Reddick, they've had Brian Burns. They don't have that guy this year. I know they have a lot of guys injured, but I still look at the closest comparison to Abdul Carter, Micah Parsons, also from Penn State. Look what he did coming into Dallas. He changed that defense. That's was one of the top defenses. He's one of the top players in the league. I think that Abdul Carter can do the same exact thing for the Panthers.
I think it is an interesting pick. I think it actually is the right move because honestly, if Carolina were to just say trade up and draft a quarterback, I don't think it's going to fix their problems immediately. I mean, you see with Bryce Young, obviously now you don't have an offensive line to support him. You don't have the weapons on offense to help him spread the ball around and learn as a young quarterback. Yeah. So it honestly would make sense to bull up that defense and get a stud like Abdul Carter in there just to reinforce, maybe get a new leader on the defense after losing Brian Burns.
I do think that Bryce Young is the surrounding cast around Bryce Young isn't obviously good, but
it's terrible.
It's not awful though. They have young talent. The line's been doing better. But I don't think it's the worst.
I really
don't know.
I mean, you got old man reliable Adam Thielen, but
they traded your best weapon. I mean, Sanders looks good. I think Brooks and Chuba could be like a really good
Hubbard is doing really good as a running back now. I want to see what
Brooks does this week.
Yeah, Legette's doing a lot better. Yeah. Bryce Young's doing better. I don't think it's not the worst situation. It's not like it was last year where it was just completely awful. They have young guys like Leggett that they're developing now, and kind of Hubbard in the same way.
I think the problem is at this point they're a year away from being a year away, so you can't really you can't fix all of it in the draft right now. So I do like it going with an edge rusher, getting a key piece on the defense, because you can't fix it all.
And I like the Panthers' defense. The past few years has been wildly underrated, and I think this year, obviously injuries, it's been bad, but
their D coordinator Evero is really, really good.
Yeah, and the defense gets stops, gets these young. First of all, does not put the pressure on the offense to score every single time. Will help Bryce Young and these other guys tremendously, but it also just gives Bryce Young more reps on the field as well. So I think either way, going defense is a good pick for the Panthers.
I agree.
I agree. And as great minds think alike, Ethan, I got a similar pick to you. Not quite for the same team, going in a little bit of a different direction, but I agree with your pick. For me, a team that has got to start booking those Cancun trips is the New Orleans Saints. Obviously,
no way.
New Orleans Saints. No as well as I also think they should invest in looking into Abdul Carter. Wow. Obviously the Saints, in terms of defense, they're one of the worst teams in the league. They give up about 385 yards per game. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. And they've been doing this cap gymnastics, it seems like, for so many years now, where we wonder, how do the New Orleans Saints manage to the salary cap and how are they always over it? And, especially with a guy who's probably been their franchise leader in Cam Jordan. He's at the age of 35 now. It's probably the end for him. It's probably one of his last few seasons if he's not going to go to a new team. So I think getting a new face of the defense in Abdul Carter, especially a guy who has 29 solo tackles, 8 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, who's the absolute beast and the next great number 11 for Penn State, he would do wonders for this team and their defense. And, look, they still have Derek Carr, and obviously he's not their franchise quarterback, but the Saints aren't going to be in a position to draft somebody like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or Jalen Milroe. So I think getting a new leader of the defense would absolutely help this team and is the best look forward for the Saints to finally start the rebuild.
I don't mind the pick. Like I said before, I think Dak goes to the Saints. I really do. I think they could give him.
That is interesting.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's weapons there. I mean, I hope Olave plays football again.
That was
fifth concussion. I don't know. I hope he plays. I love him. Taysom Hill obviously can win you a football game, obviously.
Yeah.
Taysom
wins one game a year.
You still have Kamara. You have Kendra Miller. I mean, their team's not bad.
They have a solid team, but they can't they let up so many offensive points and they let up so many yards. Yes, they have names, but a lot of their guys are older veterans. Tyrann Mathieu, Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis.
Yeah,
it's just they're good names, but they're just not getting it done.
Lattimore out,
right? Yeah, and especially getting rid of Marshawn Lattimore.
I think they have to go to that rebuild, bring in a new QB. Derek Carr's not it.
No, but I mean, I don't think they're going to be high enough to get the type of quarterback they want. So why not try to find a new face of the defense and a leader?
Honestly, there's a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, you have
They're
Ward,
not
you
a very
have
good
Moreau,
team.
you have
Their record
Sanders,
right
you have
now-
I mean, I don't like half of them, but
that's my thing. There's not a guy where you're like, that's our guy.
There's not a guy in this draft
Right.
class. I think that guy compared to what we're seeing this year with that class.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. Well, enough of the negativity. Let's move on here. Yeah. So now let's go into a little bit more positivity. Obviously, as we talked about, we're in the mid-season form. We're finding out who's going to win divisions, but we're also finding out who's going to be in the wild cards. The hopium for fans is at an all-time high. So once again, every one of us, we're going to give a team. Who do you think is going to make it into the playoffs? Want to be those wild card spots? Who's on the bubble right now? Who's going to get in and give us a great reason as to why? So, take it away again, Brandon.
I was on the show 3 weeks ago, and I was absolutely fanboying over the Los Angeles Rams, and I am still high on them. After their Thursday night win versus the Vikings, they were my pick to win the division, and they still are. That division is kind of a crapshoot right now. The 49ers are so injured. The Cardinals and Seahawks are wildly inconsistent, and I absolutely love the Rams offense. Stafford's playing like a top 8 quarterback. Cooper and Nakua are a top 5 wide receiver duo in the league. The defense is a little suspect, 22nd in points allowed, but I have enough faith in the offense to not even do great. A 10-7 record will more than easily win the division, and they'll be hosting a playoff game against a team probably like Green Bay who will have to go on the road. It's unfortunate for one of these non-division winners, but I wouldn't want to catch the Rams at the end of the season.
I've been
very high for a long time.
Stafford can deal, and that defensive lineman, Frisk and Verse those dudes from Florida State can play.
Oh yeah, I mean it makes a lot of sense actually. The NFC West, has been very lackluster this year. I mean, right now the Arizona Cardinals leading. I don't think anybody had that.
I think they're 6-5.
I have a really good offense.
And I mean,
defense.
I feel like the 49ers, even though they still are a great team, they've had a lot of injuries, and this might be one of those years where once in a while, the team just collapses due to injury. So
I'm not going to count Kyle Shanahan out.
No,
not yet. They do
not.
have a lot. I mean, Ayuk, but listen, this team's still there. They still have Kittle. You still have Divo and McCaffrey back. Purdy looked amazing yesterday. I'm not counting Shanahan's offense out yet.
And especially the Rams they have a division game against everyone else. They got one more with each team, so they got 3 more division games left. I think McVay can game plan against all of them.
Absolutely.
100.
I think you are right, though. I think you hit it right on the nail on the head that they probably have the most upside out of any of those teams in the West to get the best advantage into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But all right, Cameron, who do you think? Who's going to make it in?
Y'all see my jersey. I'm going my Broncos. This guy has saved my life this year. 307, 28 for 33, 4 touchdowns, 145.5 passer rating, second all-time in Denver Broncos history behind Peyton Manning. First rookie quarterback to have an 80% completion percentage, 300-plus yards, and 4+ touchdowns in one game. Nick Menino is number 2 behind Henderson with 9 sacks right now. Their O-line is number 2 behind the Lions in PFF grade. The D-line's number 4. Zach Allen has the most TFLs in the NFL. This defense is a bunch of guys that, if you're not a Broncos fan, you don't know who they are, but they can play some ball. Vance Joseph's playing really well. He's scheming very well, probably second-best defensive coordinator. I'd still give it to Flores, but listen, Vance Joseph and this team is rolling. Sean Payton has Bo Nix rolling, and I think Bo Nix is going to continue to develop as a great QB.
I will say, I don't think a lot of people thought, especially coming out since Bo Nix was the last QB taken in the draft, a lot of people thought he'd be making the noise he is. But I mean, Denver's in the playoffs right now.
They're right there.
They're right there competing. I mean, I don't think they're going to catch Kansas City by any means. But
I think if they would have won last week, it would have been a different story. But listen, if people that doubted Bo Nix and this Denver, I mean, Denver was the 32nd ranked roster in the NFL. The Panthers had a better roster. The Browns had a better roster. People had Denver Broncos winning 2 games at most. Their win total was 4.5. This is ridiculous. You gotta give these guys some credit. So you don't believe now, just wait.
And with how much parity there is in the league, that's another team. I wouldn't want to catch them in the playoffs because they'll probably finish at the 6 or 7, which means they might play Buffalo. They might play a Pittsburgh. They might play a Houston.
Rematch.
They could beat any of those teams. Probably not Buffalo at this point, but they could be any of the teams if they continue to stay hot and these teams kind of stay where they're at. They can easily.
Don't be surprised. I don't know. I love it.
Absolutely. All right, Ethan, what do you got for us?
My team to make the playoffs. They're a little injured right now, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're currently 4-6. I forget where they're ranked right now, but I mean,
number 2 behind them.
Well, yeah, but I mean total NFC. But they looking at their losses. They have an early loss to the Broncos, who we just talked about. Falcons twice with Kirk playing prime Tom Brady. The Ravens, which their guys got injured in. The Chiefs, where they had no, they're, again, two top receivers were injured, and that went to overtime, by the way.
Coin toss.
And and the Niners, which a little bit of a bit, but again, I keep saying it, but their two top receivers are injured. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are injured, but I'm pretty sure they're supposed to get Mike Evans back this week.
Evans is this week.
Soon.
I think it's this week or next week.
They might get him back this week, definitely by next week.
Yeah,
So
I think
Mike
that's
Evans
happening.
is coming back, so that's a huge boost for their offense. And let's just look at their schedule. They play one team over 500, which is the Chargers, and then after that, Panthers twice, Giants, Raiders, Cowboys, Saints. They should win all of those games easily. Like, they have probably the easiest schedule left. If they lose to the Chargers, they'll finish 10-7. Hopefully that could be a division title. Even if not, that's still probably a playoff berth.
I will say those losses to the Falcons definitely hurt them earlier. The
100%,
Tampa Bay was
yeah.
one of the hottest teams coming out of the league to start.
yeah.
They're currently 11th in the NFC standings, but especially with how close the standings are right now, they absolutely could make it in. And
the entire NFC West is like in that.
Right, and
North is all
Atlanta,
in.
even though despite leading the division, having the 2 wins over Tampa Bay already, they don't really look
I
like
know,
Last 2
and
weeks,
they-
they just
yeah,
get
they-
trampled.
I was high on the Falcons, and the last 2 weeks
And
happened,
Denver
and it was
just
just
trampled them yesterday.
especially after yesterday. I'm
Saints
not
were-
high on them anymore.
Yesterday, they look completely uninspired.
Kirk-
The defense
Kirk-
was awful.
Kirk had
and
no
I
clue where he was.
know that Baker Mayfield will he's Baker Mayfield. Obviously, he's going to lead them to something. Like, again, almost led them to a win over the Chiefs with his two top receivers out. He's going to lead this team.
he's got that giant Oklahoma-sized chip on his shoulder.
Yes,
and he's
absolutely.
never going to get rid of it.
Sure, still has that.
All right, yeah. So for my team going into it, it's a team that suffered a heartbreaking loss last night, but it's the Cincinnati Bengals. And the reason I say this is because, look, same as you talked about it, Ethan, earlier with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Cincinnati Bengals have such a cakewalk schedule. Now, yes, they have 2 difficult games against the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially next week. This will probably either decide if this take is a hot or cold take, and I might look like a fool next week. But aside from the Steelers, they have the Cowboys, the Titans, the Browns, and the Broncos. Now, the Broncos, yes, that is
It's going to be probably prime time.
It could be a back and forth. And it could be a 4 o'clock, maybe even 8 o'clock
I
game.
think that would be the
But
title.
The Cincinnati Bengals should absolutely roll the Cowboys, the Titans, and the Browns. I see no reason why they shouldn't have at least a chance in contention. Now, yes, they're not going to win the division over the Steelers or the Ravens, but they can absolutely get in. It's been the way that the Bengals under Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow have started every year. They start slow, but they finish strong. And every single time that Joe Burrow's been healthy, they've been right in it. And I mean, Joe Burrow, he's obviously playing at an MVP level. I mean, he leads the league in passing yards with 3,028 passing yards and 27 touchdowns, leading the league in that as well. And, as well as with Jamar Chase, we could potentially have our next Triple Crown winner on our hands. He currently leads the league in catches at 73, 1,056 receiving yards, and 12 touchdowns. That's unbelievable. I mean, the Bengals are too good, especially with their superstars, to be as bad of a record as their schedule says. So I think there's absolutely a huge chance that Cincinnati will get in the playoffs, and that's another team that no one would want to see, mostly just because I want to see Cincinnati and Kansas City again, because as of right now, Joe Burrow has been the only guy aside from Tom Brady to show that he can beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, so I would love to see the matchup again. I think Cincinnati is ripe to make the playoffs, and they'll absolutely get in.
The one problem I have with that, no bias at all, obviously, but this is the same conversations. I'm not trying to compare the two teams, but the same conversations we were having with the Jets a couple weeks ago. They beat the Texans on Thursday night, and everyone's saying, well, look what they can do. Now they just have to run the table, and they can make the playoffs. We've seen what the Bengals can do positively, but we've also seen what they can do negatively. They can lose by 7 to the Patriots. They can't have the offense and defense play well at the same time. It hasn't happened yet this season. I don't think it's going to happen. One slip up, and they're done, and I don't see them playing perfect rest of the way.
To be fair, as well as they don't have a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, but I do see
again. They're very different teams.
I do see your point. They need their defense to bend and not break, and that's not a great strategy, especially when you're fighting for a wild card spot. But it kind of seems like that's the best they can do right now. But if you have 2 superstars like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, I don't see a way that they can't not push for a playoff spot.
I agree.
And they're going to be right there. I think that Broncos Cincinnati is going to be a really good game at that point. I think they may both have 8-9 wins, and that may be for the wild card spot.
Probably will be.
I do really like your pick, though. Like, I was going to go that, but then I decided to go away. And the only reason why is just the AFC is so stacked. That's
especially those games against Pittsburgh. I don't know if I trust them.
They have 2 really tough games.
They'll
And
be
just
true. They'll be
stacked
great games.
AFC.
We'll see how it goes. Anyway, but yeah, as we talked about before, we're recapping Week 11. We got some crazy highlights to react to. So obviously, as we just got off talking about the Bengals, here we are again. Joe Burrow, 356 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, and yet they still lost. I mean, they were down 27-6 against the Chargers, and maybe Jim Harbaugh with this new culture thought this was going to be a dominant win for them, but then They scored that first touchdown, and it started thinking, oh no, the Chargers are going to charge her again. They're going to do what they always do. But you know what? Cincinnati won. They lost, excuse me, and the Chargers won. That's how confused I am. The Chargers won. It's amazing. What do you guys think?
I mean,
I
T.
don't know how
Higgins
you
to
give
split
that
the
up.
defense like this against Derwin,
Yeah,
and
it's-
I mean, like how?
I don't know how you give that up on 4th and 2.
You have T.
especially
Higgins with
because-
Jamar Chase back with Joe Burrow. Like I'm not
With
counting
them-
Joe Burrow out, but Zach Taylor, someone needs to question him, and he's on the hot seat for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's on the hot seat.
They
Yeah,
need to
you can't-
question the defense too. I
Yeah,
mean,
defense
like
terrible.
27 points of the Chargers is just.
Yeah, that's face says it all.
Yeah,
I
you-
feel so bad for him.
Yeah,
It's just like the same exact thing talking about his offensive line a few years ago. It's just
Yeah,
happened with
block.
the defense now.
No.
That's the thing holding
You
him
can
back.
hope that Amarius Mims can develop fast for them because the
Hopefully.
Bengals severely need it. They don't need
Yeah.
Joe Burrow dying behind the line again.
Yeah.
She's dying.
And what's funny to look at, you had a game last night, Burrow versus Herbert. Their conversations, their narratives have kind of flipped over the last couple of years. It was Burrow kind of on this great team. They made a Super Bowl, and you had Herbert on this floundering Chargers team. Everyone said that Herbert, he was good. He might be good, but he's also on this bad team. He's not winning games. But now that it's switched, Herbert's getting these top 5 conversations, but Burrow's still getting MVP talks. I think it's a little unfair to Herbert considering he was in the same situation and he was putting up not similar stats, but relatively similar, and he wasn't getting the same.
Hey, he did
kind of
have a
praise.
season of 5,000 yards passing.
He did.
He did.
And he's doing it with Lai McConkey's been on fire.
He
Quentin
has.
Johnson, but again, when you look at those names, it's no one like crazy. I mean, Will
But Quentin
Dissly had a
Johnson was-
crazy game last night.
The Quentin Johnson resurgence has been crazy. He looked like probably the worst pick in the first round a couple years ago, and now he is really taken over as honestly split between the wide receiver 1 or 2, depending on.
I would give it to Ladd at
I would
1, but
probably give it-
Quentin's
especially after
right
last
2.
night.
But then Will Dissly's looking good. I mean,
Mhm.
listen, I'm scared of the Chargers.
It's a great
the
team.
Broncos,
Yeah.
man.
I like
this
that
team's
team.
rolling.
It was an exciting game. But anyway, next up, we got the Packers defeating the Bears again, breaking all the Chicago fans' hearts with a blocked field goal. This is the second week in a row that we've had a situation like this where the home team looked like they were going to lose a disappointing game, and the special teams came up huge and blocked the kick. I mean, unfortunately for the Broncos, I'm sorry, Cam. I didn't mean to bring
Bears
up.
fans, I know how
I
you
didn't
feel.
mean to bring that- I don't want to bring that up, but that's 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if it's ever happened in NFL history. That's insane.
I don't know. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, clearly the Chiefs had some type of voodoo magic going on.
No, I don't know.
I mean, this
the
is
guy
just
right
a-
here did not block for Broncos.
I mean, you had
He
2
didn't
guys
block.
get pancaked on that, and the same thing last week. The left guard for the Chiefs or for the Broncos, excuse me, he got absolutely.
Yeah, Forsyth got absolutely
Absolutely
Thing is,
ran
When
over.
you look at this clip, like it's not a big block. The 91 gets his hand, he gets it on his finger.
Kyra,
Yeah.
he's got like.
It was pretty close, actually.
It
That almost
was.
being made.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that's
got a
a
pretty
30-yarder, that's probably in.
Yeah.
And that goes to my main point about this. Another coaching disaster class by Eberflus. Same thing kind of with the Washington game where he let them get the yards to go for the Hail Mary. He did not take the yards here and decided to settle. They had the ball, 30 seconds left. They ran it 1 time, got 2 yards and settled for 46. I think if they get it in maybe 5 or so yards, who knows? Maybe he kicks it a little differently. Maybe it's not blocked. Who knows?
Listen,
But I think it's
on October 13th, Caleb Williams had 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. We're now sitting at November 18th, and he has 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions.
I'm not saying they deserve to win the game, but if you come that close
Like-
against a team that has absolutely owned you for the last 5 years, you can't make just a mental.
I don't get it.
I-
I don't get what Caleb's doing and what that offense is doing. They have so many weapons. He got put in the best situation at any of these QBs, and they're losing games. Obviously, it's a game where they probably should have won, but obviously they didn't deserve it.
They're showing a lot of potential this season. They, like you said, they just haven't been winning games, and something needs to change there in Chicago.
It's a tough look. All right, but now let's get to probably the play of the week. Honestly, Josh Allen absolutely bullying his way on 4th and 2 to ice the game. He's running up the middle. He's at the 20, the 10, the 5, the touchdown to defeat Kansas City. I mean, this was absolutely amazing. That right there, if Josh Allen is to win MVP, that will be the play they show that won him the award.
It kind of reminds me of like a Heisman moment that you have in college. Every
Absolutely.
guy's got one toward the end of the year. If he's going to win MVP, this is what it's going to be.
I want to see this in playoffs. This is what I
Yeah.
need to see in playoffs. I need to see Mahomes taking them back to Kansas City and losing. But until then,
Josh Allen doesn't need to turn into the Winter Soldier.
I need to see
He
Josh
does,
Allen. Yes.
And that's what was promising to see out of him on this play because his decision making has probably been the biggest improvement of him this season. If we get back to the beginning of the play here, you see that it's a complete man coverage. They run 2 out routes with Shakir and Cooper to the right side. It completely opens the middle of the field. Allen, last year he might have tried to force that throw.
Oh,
he might have
probably.
tried to.
Running
Might have
back's
tried to
wide open.
break
I
this
think
out.
he
I
chose.
hope
I
Allen
was
feels
terrified
open.
watching this play, seeing them covered.
I mean,
I'm like,
that's
oh,
Nick
he's going to
Bolton. That's
mess
an
up.
all-pro linebacker. He just shrugs off.
Yeah.
Quinn Cook gone.
Get off
Chanel
me,
gone.
son.
Like,
And that was a
it's-
rare sign of undiscipline from the Chiefs.
How
It looked like
can
they're,
you
it looked like they're
stop
trying to strip the ball.
First of all, what
when you
Kind
gotta
of a
just kinda
tackle is
settle.
that, though, Bible? Like that.
It looks like they're trying to get a
Bolton-
funnel.
You see this? He hesitates and then just dives.
Bolton looks like if I'm trying to Madden hit stick and I miss
Yeah,
the
like-
dude.
like, hesitates, dives. Like,
Well, he doesn't want to tackle Josh Allen. He made a business.
Why doesn't he want to tackle
He made a
Josh
business
Allen?
decision. He made a business decision.
I understand what
A man
Josh
that
Allen has
big
done
should
to
not be
some
running
guys.
like that, and that's scary.
No,
And that- I just need to see it in the playoffs.
Listen,
Please,
he
Josh.
might have like major CT later on in life, but
Probably
it's
will.
fun watching Josh Allen play.
Yeah, we love you, JA17.
Just hope he doesn't even play.
that was a
That's
heck
all I
of a
want.
Some of us. do. Some of us.
All right, well, hey, let's get ready. Let's wrap it up. Of course, Monday Night Football. We got the Battle of Texas. We got the Houston Texans taking on the Dallas Cowboys, and I think a matchup maybe more people would have been excited for to start the year, but since then maybe not so much.
Yeah.
The Texans absolutely need this win over the last couple weeks. It looked a little bit shaky, and as for the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, whether they're going to tank or not, this is pretty much a must-win. So, I mean, what do you guys think? What's going to happen tonight?
Where's this game being played?
I
Is
believe
this in Cherry's World or
Texas.
Texas?
is
I know that, but where is it in the
I
Texas Stadium or Dallas? Because
I don't.
It
think
is in
matters
Jerry
very
World.
much.
it is in Jerry World.
I don't
Okay.
think.
I don't think it
I
matters
have
very well.
Texas
They
winning
won't have
27-13 in the barn burner. I'm not very curious
I don't
about this
think it's
game. I
gonna
think
be-
the Texans
I've
whoop
been-
them, but
You know,
sorry, Cowboys fans.
last night I think I got 4 hours of sleep. I'll be able to catch up tonight because there is no way that the
Yeah,
Steelers
I-
are staying up.
I want
for
to see what Nico Collins says tonight. Maybe he's back, work him in, but I don't think they'll. I mean, who knows? He may have like 10 for 150 and a touchdown. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it's going to be it's either going to be a really ugly game or a Texans massacre.
I think the Texans are going to, like, especially after last week, like you look at it, obviously embarrassing loss, but they led the best team in football 23-7 and they forced 5 interceptions.
Sure.
Like, obviously they blew the lead, but there's good things to look at. I think after last week, they're going to come out this week. They're going to kill them.
Especially we've seen the Cowboys at home play
Yeah, like-
historically awful. I don't see
Yeah.
that
They've yet to.
changing
I think
much.
they've yet to win a game.
They
Still,
haven't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they're
still
giving
have
up-
not. That's going to continue the night.
They're giving up
Texans
just south
are
of 40 a
winning.
game at home. I mean, I don't think it's much is going to change.
Yeah.
I think Dallas will keep it close. I think after a couple of bad weeks for them, they're going to keep it respectable. But I still think Houston will win by
agree.
a touchdown.
I
But
don't-
yeah,
it might
I
go
think
the same way as the Eagles, like kind of keep it close, and then the Eagles just break out.
out.
Like,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be the same
There's no
thing. Going into
interest
the,
in this game.
I'm going to watch it, but I
Cowboys,
don't want to.
Cowboys primetime 2 weeks in a row, and then next week they're on Thanksgiving, and it's like, am I going to see Cooper Rush or Trey Lance against Tommy DeVito? I don't
Honestly,
know.
just put,
it would be an
Put
interesting
Trey
idea
Lance
to
in at
see.
this point.
Yeah, it would be
I
interesting.
would like to see Trey Lance.
Right, it would be
Yeah,
interesting to see.
especially if
Trey
what you're
Lance has
talking-
not been given a good opportunity.
No, and I would
yet.
love to
They
see
need
him.
to give him.
If
I
what you're
need to
talking
see
about
him.
with Dak leading this offseason, they're going to have to go a different direction. If they don't draft the guy, Trey Lance might be next
Yeah.
up. I mean, he's still young.
Just give him an opportunity.
I
That's all
still
I'm saying.
have been high on Trey Lance. I know, like, he hasn't done well, but I don't think he was given an opportunity. And honestly,
I
the
agree.
Cowboys might be the opportunity for him.
Could be.
Like,
Yeah.
I hate the Cowboys, so I don't want to say it, but I want to see him succeed with
Sorry,
them.
Cowboys fans.
Well, hey, it was great. It was great. Great episode with you guys. We had a lot of fun.
Fun.
That's all we got for
Fun
time for
happening.
tonight. Tune in tomorrow. We got some college football. Another great episode is going to be. That was Cameron Calder. That was Ethan Brinsner. That was Brandon Kern. I've been Jake Gottwald. And enjoy your football Mondays. We'll see you tomorrow.